Good morning, everyone, and happy Hump Day, January 25th, 2023. Now I'm coming to you from one of my another tribe sister in Christ kitchen. So my new test kitchen, and I am having a ball. She does not have a microwave, so because of my need for chicken broth, especially today, and I might keep cutting my head off, but I wanted to show you some ingenious way. She doesn't have a microwave. They're not good for us. So I keep water on the stove, which is easy to boil, plus boils the hell out of it if you are on city water, just FYI. What they tell you, but you should be boiling your water every day. Because I have yet to hear of any water source around the world, well, maybe overseas, that is not been contaminated. I've even heard that bottled water is contaminated. So I needed to melt some butter. So instead of, she has a fun silverware. It's all gold. I've never seen gold silverware. That's really cool. But anyway, since I've got boiling water, I flipped over the lid so that I could put a little thing of butter to melt for my cornbread pancake that I'm making. And the crust today is my leftover, I'm not sure if I have enough. Oh, that's perfect. Ooh, maybe not. Yeah, okay. It needs to be saltier. Go figure. Where was I? Anyway, so melting the butter, I was like, oh, hey, this is gonna melt up here, right? Oh yeah, totally melting. So the crust, there we go. I knew it'd give me a couple minutes and I'm gonna come up with the crust. So the crust this morning that I'm making for the cornbread pancake, because I always use leftovers, because I waste not, want not. All you people laughing about throwing that bagged lettuce away should think again. Stop buying it. Because there are people all over the world starving. And if I weren't gifted food, I would be with Hannah. So let that sink in. So the crust is leftover Cracker Barrel from Sunday, hash brown casserole, another onion, because onions are so good for you, and a couple apples, because we all need our fiber. Now, granted, the composition of an apple gets broken down once you start cutting into it and changing it from its original state of not the forbidden fruit. But they're still healthy. You're still getting nutrients. So, and then a little lime juice, because what I learned from the Spanish culture is that they eat limes with every meal. That's why their skin looks so amazing. They don't have to buy potions and creams and have surgeries on their faces. That's how their skin looks so beautiful. So I try to eat them every day and add them to juice when my body requires me to have some juice. It's funny how when you crave foods that are good for you, what they do for your body. I mean, when I sliced off my thumb, it's almost completely healed over. And it still looks like I lost a chunk of it, but it's healing. It healed. And how did it heal? I used sea salt with some peroxide, and every once in a while I put a little bit of Neosporin on it, but it didn't have to be Neosporin. You know, all the generics it's all the same composition. They all work the same. As long as it's the same formula, And why do I use it? Because it pulls it out. It doesn't put poison in my body. It's pulling everything out. So when you get all that green stuff coming out, then I put it in salt water with that peroxide. Amazing how that works. So here's my melted butter. It's kind of hard to see. Oops, I don't want to spill it on the floor. So it's almost completely melted without a microwave. So if you don't have a microwave, you don't want to get out of pan, just get a little, like she had, these cute little cups. I was like, those are darling. Oh, I can put a tea bag in one so I can use this handy dandy cup that has a lid to keep my chicken broth warm. So taking a tour in her kitchen because she is moving, I didn't find any baking powder. But what I did find was yeast. So I'm activating the yeast now to use in my cornbread pancake so that it rises to the occasion. I just love that. And what I love about this whole method is I'm not separating the butter. It's slowly melting rather than the microwave going and taking it to a weird color. This has got that real buttery, creamy color. I don't want to tilt it too much because I don't want to lose it, but it's kind of hard to see in this lighting. But anyway. So it's really interesting. I had this dream my first night here. And I keep dreaming. I'm not sure what my dream was this last night, but I did dream again. So we're gonna take a little walk over here so I can continue on. With this baked pancake. I'm not sure you're gonna be able to see what I'm doing. Yeah, you can see, okay. All right, so if anybody wants to make my recipe, gotta find it first. You can put whatever you want down as the crust, or you don't have to. You can just skip the crust altogether. What's interesting is I've never made it with blueberries, and my tribe sister Bonnie, what a love, she brought me some frozen blueberries that were fresh. So those are going to go in, and I'm hopeful that the Queen Bee, Hannah Grace, doesn't have any issues. Although one never knows with her. She wouldn't eat a grilled cheese last night. Apparently, I needed to eat both of them. It's really interesting. I know that if she doesn't eat it, I'm to eat whatever I made. At least not one, unless I get full. But I don't eat a whole lot anyway. Anybody that knows me knows that I just don't. So back to the recipe. Put your oven at 375 degrees. I'm going to stick with that right now. I keep using cooking stuff at 333. But 375 seems to work for 25 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to keep it that way for now. I might change it later, but I'm like, who went and decided that it all needs to be the same? That's man for you. Let's conform. No, I'm a nonconformist. I left that life. Remember, I'm defiant. And I love it. You know how people stay in their pajamas all day? Well, I got dressed late yesterday because I had issues waking up choking, coughing. And I thought, you know what? Why can't I sleep in my clothes that are comfy? I mean, let's just be honest. They're leggings with my fun wick-aways because if I get sweaty at night, they wick away. And of course, I have to think outside the box because if I kick off, I mean, I want them to find me like this. Instead of in some pajamas that I may or may not like. But I like all my stuff. They're all fun. Anyway, so back to the recipe. Set your ovens for 375. And cast iron skillet is important. Every household across the world needs to have one of these. There are certain tools in the kitchen that make my life easier. Now I got mine from Pampered Chef. I don't know where hers came from, but this is something to squeeze your fruits. This one's got a double layer, so it was perfect for limes, green limes. Get it? Anyway, and she didn't have a cutting board, but she went to Tom's, I believe it's what it's called, and it's like this place where they have an abundance of surplus of stuff, and it's really cheap. So she had these wipe-off boards. I thought, I can't find a cutting board because she's moving, so I'm pretty sure if I wash that, I can use it as a cutting board, even if it's a one and done. But thus far, I cut all over it, and it's not chewed up. So that just gave me some other ideas for later today. I have a gift rolling around my head, but anyway, back to the recipe. Okay, so my baked cornbread pancake has 1 cup of cornmeal and 1 cup of flour. And you can pick whatever flour you want. I'm just using, oh, of course, this one's bleached. They didn't have unbleached, which, oh well. We're going to break the hell right out of it. That's what I keep telling myself. I just throw it up to God. And I used to be exact with my measurements. I've decided, really, I'm not worried about that anymore. If it's close to a cup, it's close to a cup. After watching the lady with the okay, there's 1 cup. Depression recipes. I thought, you know what? She's usually one of these to measure everything. Now, there is a slight difference in measurements from the dry to the liquid. However, it's not that big of a difference. Okay, so I've got the flours in. 1 cup cornmeal, 1 cup flour. Okay, 3½ teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, well, I don't have baking powder. So I activated 1½ teaspoons of yeast and some water because I use whole milk for everything. And because they haven't jacked with it. The less they jack with your food, the better. You're better off to get it in whole food form. So I'm going to wait to add this a little later since it's wet. But it's 3½ teaspoons of baking powder. A half a teaspoon of baking soda. We got snow, so Hannah's already been out, had a ball. So I promised her I'd take her out and she could play in it today. She's so excited. Okay. And then 2 tablespoons of sugar. And since my tribe sister has pure maple syrup, we're going to use that today. You could use honey, you could use whatever else, but this is pure maple syrup from Dodd's, D-O-D-D-S, Sugar Shack in 1654 Dodd Road in Niles, Michigan. And she's got these fun, I love going into each, oops, wait a minute here. Hold that thought. I can't put the liquid in the solid powdered ingredients. So I need to move this to another bowl. Okay. Let's do this. Because you add this at the end. Kind of like making cookies. And I like to marry my foods together. Okay, so I need salt. We're going to I'll come back to the maple syrup. Let's add the salt, which is a half a teaspoon of salt. And she's got Redmond real salt. We're going to use that. I've never used this in a recipe, so why not try something new? Oops. Let's add that, half teaspoon, to the dry ingredients. And I always, like to stir it up. Tools. Let's see here. These right here. Okay. Okay, so all the dry ingredients are added. 1 cup cornmeal, 1 cup flour. Now, if I had baking powder, I'd have 3½ teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay. So now let's work on the wet. Let's start with the milk, which is 2 1/4 cups, which I've started with 2 cups, and then I add. And it just looks so good when you use good milk. Okay, so I've got 2 cups of milk, and we're going to make it buttermilk. With that beautiful butter that's been sitting melting. Oh boy, it just like melds right out. There's just something happy-pappy about it for me anyway. So that's 2 tablespoons of butter. And now you take 2 more tablespoons, melt them, and I always cut the butter so it's in little pieces because it melts easier. And I break it up. Okay. I always have a paper towel to wipe my hands off. Okay, so while that's melting, that's going to be poured on top when it comes out of the oven. All right, so back to our buttermilk that we're making. Mix it up real well. And you can put this recipe together however you choose. It's amazing though, I've tried to keep the butter out at room temperature, but it still got, right as soon as it hit the milk, it still hardened it a little bit. That's all right. I'll whip it into shape. Okay, so what do we need next? Oh, I better go get 2 eggs out because you got to separate them. I'll just set those over there. I'm not going to do that yet. But okay, so let's add the sugar. 2 tablespoons. You can do honey too. I've done honey. So there's 1. And I like to marry my food. I don't like to just keep dumping it and then mix it all together. That's my new fun way of cooking in the kitchen. Now I'm having a ball cooking this way because I like to marry my foods together. I like having a party with each other. And I swear, it just makes everything taste so much better. And I will make sure I put the recipe in full form once this video is uploaded, whenever it may be. I just got this great idea to go to a library because I've got an old friend I'd like to go visit. We'll see if I can get somebody to take me and Hannah there. I need to do some more research. And what better place to do it than the library? It's just filled with all kinds of factual information. Okay. So we're going to add the eggs near the end. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to add this flour mixture that I still have not mixed together. So I'll put this away. I always like to get it out and put it away, especially when I'm not going to need it again. That way your working space is not so cluttered. Mix up all these dry ingredients. Okay, and I don't just dump it all. I do it in small increments. And we're going to do everything's better in 3, so 3 big heaping tablespoons. And I forgot one little key is you can sift your flour too, if you so choose. But this is mixing up pretty good, so. And I'm going to show you, remember when we were kids how you'd have the sifter? This one's pretty fine. Hers is pretty fine, so I'm not sure how this one's going to work out. So let's try it. Oh, it works just fine. So if you've got a strainer, too, that's how you can sift your flour. And I learned that little key. I love how you always learn something from every person that you meet. And I learned this from one of my little sisters, because we share the same blood. We share Christ's blood. So when she came over, and I can't even remember what we were making, she sifted the flour like this. And I'm like, good girl. Now, maybe her mom taught her that. I don't know. But I've been doing it ever since, when I think about it. So that's how you sift your flour. And it's amazing how it takes all those chunks right out. I do that with Hershey's Cocoa too. Still my favorite. I love that harsh Hershey's taste. I just always have. And I didn't realize that cocoa naturally has it's you know, got heavy metals in it or something to that effect. It's pretty interesting when you continue to do your homework what you discover. I thought, you know, I haven't done a cooking episode in a while. And I think later today I might do unleavened bread, but I want to see if one of my tribe sisters is going to come over and join me. Oh, this is working great. Super duper excited. Now the salt won't go through. That's okay. I just sprinkle that right in. I decided when you do it slower, You're cooking with love. Well, I always am cooking with love because it's the heart of the kitchen. The heart of the house is the kitchen. I don't know if you ever thought about that. I know I did a video on that. But have you ever thought about the heart of your house, where it might be? Certainly not the bedroom, I assure you. Although some people may disagree with me. And when I thought about it being the kitchen, just brought me right back to the Bible and Thanksgiving. But hey, that's just me. It's the warmest room in the house, always, especially when you turn the oven on. She's got a little curtain up because the outside room is not insulated. And it's almost like a three-seasoned room, but it would be the perfect place for one of those portable fireplaces that look like a fireplace, but it's not. It's this little house that she's rented is darling. I mean, I am having a ball, and she hasn't been back since I got here, so I can't wait for her to see what I've done. Despite her moving, doesn't look like she's moving, but she's got a whole nother month, the rest of this month, and then all of next month. So I talked on another video about my coughing, my dry cough, and my choking. And my dream, as I'm listening, I try to go back and look at some of my videos that I've done, because there's sometimes I've got unfinished business. And it reminded me about some things. So that video on gossip, I had a dry cough with. So that's when it started. So that's been now a week or so ago. Well, then I had a dream after I was given stress again. And I woke up choking last Saturday. Oddly, they both happened on a Saturday, on the Sabbath. And then I get here the first night, and I felt a darkness in this house. I don't feel it anymore. Even Hannah was acting weird and goofy. And I dreamt about I was with my tribe brother and sister in Waukesha in this dream. And the video that I watched this morning sparked part of the dream again, of something that I forgot was referenced, which I added to a list that I am in need of. But when I was coughing in my dream, and if your dough starts to get like this, where it's too sticky, that's when you add water. And since we've got boiling water that doesn't have any hell in it, we're going to use some of that. Well, I'm over here. I need to turn this button. Pretty amazing too when you boil water. You see stuff that's in it. Because you want it to be like batter. So not all recipes. You don't want to go overboard because you still got to add 2 eggs. So, but it was getting a little too you don't want your batter to be gooey. And that's what I found with these box mixes now, that you go from 2 eggs to 4 eggs all of a sudden. Why? Because what they put in, sludge, soy less than, and whatever poisons they put in, don't rise. So you got to use eggs in your recipe to bind the ingredients so it rises. And then it gets to a certain point, kind of like a balloon. Don't go any further. Looks like the perfect little recipe when it's done, filled with poison. That made me very sick, my whole right side. Okay. So, oh, goody gumdrops. I was hoping that this would have a little lip on it, and it certainly does. So we're almost done with the flour portion of this recipe. Flour. Baking powder, baking soda, although I don't have baking powder today. Okay. And then now I'm going to add the activated yeast, since this is the last bit of the flour. There's another one. It's got these cute little whisks. I love them. They're little ones. And imagine that. That's just my outfit. Love that. Get all of the last drop out. Hopefully I don't overwork this, but since it's already activated, I should be okay. But again, trial and error. Trying to use what I've got. But it's really interesting when you start making correlations. You know, it wasn't an accident that I watched that video and was coughing in it. And I went, uh-oh, here's a pattern. I need to write that in the calendar because I know when it was that I did that video, because I uploaded it the day that I did it. So I need to put that in my calendar too. And I'm getting raspy again, so I need some more chicken breast. Because that means the fluids are building up. Okay. So let me go through this recipe, make sure there's nothing else I've forgotten. Gotta put the eggs in now. I might need this water a little.